I think what motivated him to call our general election was that if he called a general election and we had contested, in other words, he wanted to get rid of us from the parliament, and we had contested, the UNC membership would not have voted us back into office. So I think it was really because of the problems that he considered he was having with the 3 members of parliament that he wanted to go back to the polls.
Ramesh Muraj, Travis Sudama and Ralph Muraj crossed over the floor to the PNM, but they didn't literally cross over the floor, but they joined with the PNM in preventing the government of the day from passing any laws. And once that happened, I thought to myself that the people had put us there in order to serve them. And if we couldn't pass laws, we couldn't serve them. And therefore the only thing to do was to call on elections. And I called on elections, and the result was 1818, as you recalled.
We thought we would have won the election, and we didn't.
In 2001, Prime Minister Basdeo Panday took the nation back to the polls after having won the 2000 general elections. The results of the December 10th, 2001 general elections was 1818. The question was, how would this election deadlock be broken?
The PNM's position, and this is not Mr. Manning's position, this has been since the days of Dr. Eric Williams, and it has always been, we fight alone, we win alone, or we lose alone.
There was some agreement, some discussions between both Mr. Panday and Mr. Manning on the way forward in the interest of the country. And there was an agreement that whatever the president decides, we will work with it.
Both prime ministers agreed to give Mr. Robinson that discretion.
The agreement was hammered out at the Crowne Plaza Hotel and would thereafter be known as the Crowne Plaza Accord.
The Crowne Plaza Accord has been misinterpreted in many ways. I think Mr. Manning and I met in order to see if we can resolve what is called the 1818 problem. And many people wrongfully assumed or presumed that we had given President Robinson the power to appoint whom he wanted. That was untrue. We could not change the Constitution to give the president power. The president had that power under the Constitution.
If at the time I was in the government, I would have advised Mr. Panday immediately to call a general election, because there was an 1818 and he was still the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And if he had advised Mr. Robinson to have a general election, Mr. Robinson would have had to have a general election.
Whether or not guided by the Crowne Plaza Accord, President A.N.R. Robinson chose Patrick Manning to be Prime Minister. In doing so, on the evening of December 24, 2001, he cited moral and spiritual values.
The Manning party, PNM party, was going to be more moral and more spiritual in its decision making. I think he actually believed that.
And Mr. Robinson made a choice to choose Mr. Manning as Prime Minister, even though the PNM got less votes than we did. And his reason was that he did it on moral and spiritual grounds. I'm not sure whose morals it was, whether it was Robinson's or the country's.
The corruption and the different things that happened under the then government swayed him to come to the PNM.
To many, though, a golden opportunity had been lost. The opportunity to write a chapter in the parliamentary life of Trinidad and Tobago, a unity government.
Panday sought to have a unity government with Manning. That was one of the points as well. And then Robinson made his decision and killed that effort.
Yes, I had talked to Mr. Manning about it. I'd spoken to Mr. Chambers about it. But I was told by both of them that members of their own party would not consider the idea at all.
We should have found a way to govern the country together. If people put you together, that is providence. We should have found a way. And in my view, we failed. The question of our trying, meaning both UNC and PNM, trying to make that what the people gave us work. I felt that was a failure of politicians.
A year later, the Prime Minister Patrick Manning would be forced to call the country's third general election in 3 years, as Parliament was unable to elect a Speaker of the House and convene sittings.
Because whenever Parliament tried to convene, it wasn't possible. It was 1818. And so we had to, as a government, we had to see what the country's business. So a cabinet was formed and ministers were appointed, and we ran the country for 1 year, and then the elections were called again, and we prevailed by 4 clear seats.
Under the leadership of Patrick Manning, the PNM would stay in government until 2010. The resolution of 1818 does, however, continue to raise constitutional questions.
We certainly have not done constitutional reform in relation to those events that took place, 2 of them in particular, 1818 and 1717 too. Our constitution remains the same. And you begin to wonder, are we serious people? It's almost as if you're thinking that it can't happen again, or if it does happen, it must be resolved politically, in the sense of people coming together